First to venture into 3.23 Live. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank them along subscribers. I am covering the 3 subscriber weapons this month, the Valor series. And I'm also covering, in this video, the Pulse. So I have the Pulse, not the Pulse LX, but I have the Pulse here with the weapon system on board. And I wanted to start with the Valors. So the Valors are here, and you can see the Karna right here. That is the rifle. And some of the effects are really well done. The color scheme is interesting. I think some purists are going to be like a little bit iffy about it, but for festive events and for fun and stuff, it's a great build. I think also it'll go with a lot of outfits, costumes, armors, etc., especially when they're more extreme ones. Now, I wanted to point out that these Valor series, some people kind of have mixed feelings about, and I was kind of surprised. It kind of took me off guard because they're obviously themed for Invictus. Invictus launch week ILW is got this color scheme the same as the weapons, and a lot of the clothing options and stuff that you get during it, and some of the freebies and such match this color scheme. That's kind of the deal here. That's what the whole Valorite concept comes from. Anyway, the V Karna looks really good in this color scheme. It does have a high sheen to it. There's a lot of metallic parts. So if you're looking for low profile, this ain't it. These are for show. But they do the job. So if you're just here for the Pulse, don't forget you can use the chapters. You can jump ahead if you'd like. And here's a little peek at another 3.23 technology. There is these mini maps of your ship. So it's not just the A2 that you've probably seen from a lot of content creators or yourself if you checked it out in Arena Commander engineering mode. These mini maps are in all the ships that I know of, and they're quite useful. You can't lock the doors yet open or closed, but eventually you will be able to, and that map will tell you what's going on with your ship, module-wise, doors-wise, and other technologies and resources in each one of the rooms that makes up a ship. So right now we're looking at the Lumin V Valor SMG, and I found this crazy effect for DLSS, and I was like, okay, well maybe just upscaling DLSS in Vulkan was impacted. Let me try FSR, the other big main upscaling gorilla in the room. And these are both at 66% quality, which is what I usually use. And it impacted both FSR and DLSS. So this is an interesting glitch with this specific weapon system. Now, it seems like the smoke that comes off the end from the ballistics or the energy that it transfers, the effect seems to have that weird ghosting thing when it comes to Vulkan upscaled technology. When I switched over to no upscaling, just staying on Vulkan, the issue went away. Now, I want to mention later on in this video, you'll see why upscaling is usually better for frames and less memory draw and such, but this was an interesting thing about the Lumin V Valor SMG. I'm sure I'm not the only person to spot this. I'm sure this will be sorted out. You notice the color scheme is much more pronounced on this smaller weapon system with these big parts of it in the goldish type paint. So with the third of the weapon series, I saved the best for last. You have the F55. And after I get done the inventory issues, so the server FPS was around 6 and 7 on this server, and the servers were basically on fire tonight because 3.23 Live came out. Everybody's excited about it, but I did get it to work. I left this in unedited because I wanted you to see what's going on. I've been a big proponent of trying to show you honest assessments of what's going on and what's good and bad about the experience of Star Citizen and documenting it. So F55 Valor has the distinctive Gatling effect. You can see how it has to spool up to fire. If you're not familiar with it, it can be a little disorienting for people. The Demco is a little less pronounced, just the effects and such. The feel of it feels less of an LMG iffy, except for the handle that sticks out when you're trying to look through on your sight picture. The sight picture on this one, on the F55, is pretty clean, but the sights are close together, which is very awkward because in real terms, that's not a good idea. And but in game, it really doesn't, I guess, affect too much. It still looks clean, and it's a tight sight picture. And I mean, if you use a scope anyway, none of this the iron sights really matter. But and that may be the case for many. So we're starting to see the night vision being attached to the weapon system as one of the first implementations of night vision in some of the previews. We just saw today the Claws and Paws video that was covering Copions and other fauna. Basically, they were covering that, and they showed a preview of a night vision shot in that. But I think a lot of people that were pushing for night vision were more thinking of inside the visor or attached to the helmet or some other method to put it on your face. So it's more useful. Pointing a weapon at something, trying to find out what it is, will obviously aggravate a person or an animal or something, and be more likely to have a risk of accidentally, hitting them with something, which is not ideal. So, long story made short, it would be better to have night vision on your face than on your weapon system a lot of times. And may I suggest that if we were ever going to have thermal, which I don't think we'll ever have, but if we did, put that on the weapon and then have night vision on your face. Anyway, back to topic. So let's get to the pulse. This is the traditional pulse, I guess you could call it, the non-LX. Both are 25 USD, which is a very pleasant experience. And one of the things I learned very quickly on this thing is that it's spacebar and control that are your guides here. Spacebar going up, control going down. They are super critical to keeping this thing going the right way. It is very forgiving when it starts wanting to roll. It tends to roll back, which is nice. This is me kind of practicing with it, kind of thinking like, can this thing be used tactically? Is it just a gimmick? And the weapon does not quite rotate the way I thought it would. So I'm trying to like wing shots over it at like the same target I've been practicing on and playing with here. And what I noticed is if you go in reverse, it tends to like arc upwards. And then also if you go up slopes, obviously, it does absorb the slope, so you're pointing up a little bit, so you can shoot upwards. But in general, it's extremely hard in the normal flight modes, normal flight model to shoot up, like say at the top of that rock. So remember, they'd be shooting at you right now, and this thing is not exactly adorable. So yeah. That being said, when you arc over things, you go into this crazy little mini glider mode. And what I learned quick about this thing is if you hold shift for the boost and you hit spacebar to go back up, you can kind of like gently land. The boost is incredibly important on this craft. So up and down is important and boost is important. And what I noticed really quick, this is the huge memory leak I had with the non-upscaled. I believe it was off of the dirt and other things like that, like when that kicked up a ton of dust flying across there, cutting across a huge area quickly. And after a few seconds, you can see that DLSS kind of cleaned it up. So with the pulses, especially this pulse, if you're trying to use it not in a racing circumstance or just screwing around racing, and you actually try to use it as a weapon or a scout or something like that, and you're just scouting around and somebody starts shooting at you, or NPCs start going after you, in general, use your speed to your advantage, use height to your advantage, which is quite a surprise for me. I did not expect that. So, ramp off of things with the boost, as long as you have a clean line to go through. So if you have a whole bunch of trees in front of you, that might be a bad idea. But the thing likes to go up in the air, and then it kind of glider modes across areas. Now, I'm not saying you're always going to land safely, and I'm not saying you're not going to damage the poor thing trying to do this, but it seems like that's the way it likes to do things. It likes to work in the verticality, and it's because it's so small and so nimble, and the boost works so effectively at basically bringing it back to 0. It really is an interesting dynamic. It doesn't have a lot of mass to have to throw around to stop. So like you can do crazy things like this and then like hit the boost and W key or spacebar up and forward, and the boost will kind of like put you back to 0. And because the craft is so small, it's kind of curved at the base of it. You can kind of like roll off of things and bounce off of them sometimes. You can see me phasing through some trees here. Got lucky. But like right there. So the boost going back to forward. So this is when I first got it, and I wanted to include this because some people may pick up the pulse and go, I can't even get out of the dang garage. It has a pretty interesting way it handled the screens. So I don't necessarily like the way these screens are done. I wish they were at least on like a 20-30 degree angle in front of you. It might have ruined the look slightly. But anyway, the screens are in front of you on the base of the device, the top of the device in front of you. And I wish they were more on an angle so they're more user-friendly. Just slightly angling them, I don't feel would kill the lines of the bike. You could even add a tiny little windscreen like racing bikes do, and it would look absolutely fine and whatnot. Anyway, when you go inside, remember to use your control key to keep the craft down. I left this in because I wanted you to see how it kind of bounces around, but you don't die or anything like crazy like that. You dismount on the left, which is a problem for some vehicles. So you'll see right there, leave yourself a tiny bit of space next to the bike. So when you hold down Y and you hop off, you will basically dismount to the left and you're like bouncing into the wall. You'll notice that this is the Cutter Rambler, the shorter of the cutters. And then the default Cutter has a slightly bigger bay. This Rambler is shortened to give the Hab more space. And it absolutely fits in there, no problem. And I wanted to point something out. So some people will say like, oh, well, I maxed out the size of my ship and I'll fit like all these different vehicles. You still want to be able to walk back and forth safely and hop off and on the ship constantly. So putting 2 of these on there, putting 2 pulses, sure, you could fit them. But getting past them comfortably every time and being able to go deliver a box or run off in an emergency or just shoot out the back or whatever you have to do, I would not recommend that. I would prefer to use it in this manner where you have one bike. So I think it's comfortable to say that absolutely the Rambler can fit one. It is not a bad pickup. It is a fun little vehicle to have. It is going to be great for many things. As you can see, it has storage. I wasn't able to determine how big the storage was because you're like a vehicle within a vehicle. I have to test that, to see how big the actual storage is, but it's nice that it has storage. I think the regular pulse with the weapon, even though it's a little size 1 energy weapon and such, which by the way is better because the energy weapon will reload on its own and you can keep using it, is far more practical for most players. It has some defensive measure. It has some offensive capability. You can have some fun with it. Unless you're the racing kind who like enjoys circuit tracks and you know who you are, the LX I'm sure is great. I did not have a chance to test that yet. I'm sure I will very soon. But as it is, the Pulse, the regular Pulse with the weapons, I recommend it. I think it's a great little bike. If you don't already have a bike, it's a really nice pickup. If I wouldn't say if you like have no ship at all, pick this up or something. But if you have something, especially if you have something that can fit it, and most even starter ships can fit this vehicle, and particularly like here's the Cutter, and it's just fine. Multiple people saying the Pisces also fits it. So that's all I got for now. This is kind of a grab bag, but I wanted to thank you all for being here, and I wish you a great 3.23 live. If you can't get on the servers, give it a shot now. It seems like they've calmed down quite a lot in the past couple hours since the gibbeting happened, where we've gotten the patch we've long awaited, and I feel like 3.23 live is a massive step in the right direction. And I almost forgot, the F7A Mk2 is in. You have to log into the game after you've completed all those things we've walked through in the guides, and thank you for the feedback on those guides. But you basically just accept a mission where it just says that, hey, you've got the thing. Let me grab it real quick. So you basically just accept the Overdrive Initiative reward. I had to do it. I had to accept it a couple times, like click the accept button a couple times, and it did work. And it is what it is. You know, sometimes you have to go through these things and kind of step through them. And I would say in general, there's a lot to be said for simplicity. And it's a shame that they made it another mission you have to accept in the game. I think it would have been cleaner, especially with how busy the servers are, to just give people the token if they've completed the Overdrive Initiative. But maybe it's something on the back end they had to add. Okay, for real this time, that's all I got. Thank you all again for being around, and have a great 3.23 Live.